Well, there you go. Our Rafsanjani joins us next. He's the head of Transparency International Nigeria office. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. I don't know how much of Mr. Adesina's response to your report that you caught or heard, because he says, first of all, look, this report cannot be. You don't expect us to accept reports that's done by foreigners for this country, essentially saying they take it with a pinch of salt.
Well, it is quite unfortunate that some public official can talk in this kind of very, if you like, very uncivilized, very reckless way. This is the same public official that are jumping when a report favors them from the same so-called foreign countries. But when the report is not in favor of them, they try to discard or disregard the report. But that is not what the issue is. The issue is that there's a corruption that is undermining safety and security. There's a corruption in this country that is making poverty to be a major crisis. There's a problem of corruption that is undermining our value system. There's a corruption in this country that makes us to lose our respect and our dignity. There's a problem of corruption that is completely making us to be a very reckless, country in governance by refusing to follow court order and ensure that they comply with due process. So it is not about the organization that do this, because even the government itself, the report that is coming from government agency is more damning than even the report that is coming from Transparency.
So speaking about government, if I could just to pick up on that for a bit, he essentially was also saying, look, so where then, how does this report take into cognizance the efforts of agencies like the EFCC, the ICPC, all those other anti-corruption agencies who he also talked about how some 2,000 cases had been won, which was out there in the news. He says all of these things, you don't seem to acknowledge them in the report.
I think there's a deliberate or mischievous response on some of this issue, because we have said it time without numbers that Transparency International is not measuring the performance of government anti-corruption or an evaluation of EFCC, ICPC, and other anti-corruption agencies. It is basically looking at how corruption undermines or affects public sector in Nigeria. So it is not about measuring the performance of ICPC, EFCC, code of conduct, or overall looking at government part against corruption. No, another organization will do that. But what Transparency International does is simply to look at corruption in public sector. In all honesty, can anybody say that there's no corruption in the health sector? There's no corruption in the defense sector? There's no corruption in educational sector? There's no corruption in all public sector? Try and see if you can go and get a passport, international passport, without giving bribe, or even driving license, or even getting admission. Look, to even see a doctor or get bed space, you have to pay bribe. The ordinary person is receiving this situation every now and then. So there you have it. A lot of Nigerians are finding it difficult to survive because of corruption, because corrupt public officials have made life miserable. The abortion of budget. The president just recently was complaining of budget party. You think all these are not also part of problems that have to do with the corruption when people completely diverted budgetary allocation that is meant to help provide social services to the Nigerians? And let us also be very clear. Transparency International and CISLAC, as well as other civil society organizations working on anti-corruption, are working very well with relevant anti-corruption agencies to help strengthen and ensure that they succeed in the work that they are doing. What this simply report is saying is that there are gaps in the way and manner in which we conduct our affairs, and there's need to do that. And I think if the government is honest and sincere and they really want to fight corruption, they should see this as a wake-up call to help bridge gaps where we have gaps, whether it is in the policy, whether it is in the legal framework, whether it is in the implementation or compliance or enforcement. Rather than dismissing this, you are provoking actually Nigerian sensitivity because they encounter this corruption from the police, from everywhere, in Nigeria. So rather than dismissing it, why can't you look at these challenges like other countries do? Remember, Transparency International also rank America, United Kingdom, France, Italy, all these countries. And currently, the current rating, countries like Canada are pulling down. Countries like Belgium have come down. Countries like Switzerland have also come down. None of these countries have come to attack or abuse Transparency International. What they do, they say, please, can we see how you can help us, support us to strengthen our system. But the case of Nigeria, because of those who benefit from corruption in Nigeria, they will always come and depend, corruption in Nigeria. Otherwise, this government that come to say they want to fight corruption, what they would do is to say, okay, let's see what can we do to help bridge the gap that we have.
Just Mr.
Rafsanjani. And Nigerians are seeing this corruption every day in their lives.
And looking through that report, it chronicles some of those areas. But I recall that, in fact, the Minister of Information had said, let's work together to fix this. And there was some collaboration between TI, CISLAC, and the government regarding access to information. I think regarding, the import sector and the rest. But really, when you talk about the anti-graft agency, can you really separate them from this corruption perception index? Because, corruption perception essentially says how people view corruption, how they see it as endemic across sectors. And you have agencies like the EFCC, ICPC, and other law enforcement agencies that are meant to essentially provide deterrent, to corruption. So, and looking through that report as well, there was reference made to the Pandora Papers, the Panama Papers, how, according to TI, action was not taken. And I imagine those actions should have been taken by the anti-graft agencies and those responsible. So in the light of that, can you really separate them from the corruption perception index?
Okay, just to put it on record, all the major three scandals that has happened, the Panama, the Pandora, the Paradise scandal, which involves public officials in Nigeria, none of these reports action has been taken on those who were involved. Secondly, every year, an average of $18 billion is going into money laundering and illicit financial flow. We have not seen efforts to block those money from going out of this country, and yet you are suffering from poverty, from an employment deficit in social sector. Thirdly, like I said, other organizations may be interested in measure the performance of EFCC, but International CISLAC is not making those measurements. What we are doing is to say, look, this is what Nigerians are feeling, this is what Nigerians are talking about when they encounter public sector provisions, services. And this is what Nigerians, if you go and interview Nigerians, they know how much they get, experience from extortion in the police. They know how much, they have to pay to get admission. They know how much they pay to get a job. They even know how much they get to pay to get appointment. And even with the Auditor General report, with the NAIT report showing, clearly how corruption has become endemic, and even how the government itself, is talking about this, it shows you clearly that there's a problem. And those who are dismissing this report is because they are beneficiary of also the wrong thing in Nigeria. That is the only justification. Otherwise, no right-thinking person will come and add insult, to Nigerians who are facing this catastrophic of corruption in Nigeria. So I am saying that public officials need to be sensitive, need to be responsible, because Nigerians are going through hell as a result of corruption. It is because of corruption That's why money budgeted to provide arms will not be, brought. People have chopped that money. And even the government, even the president, has talked too much about those things. And EFCC, ICPC have been arresting people who collected money in the name of conspiracy project that they did not do. So if there's no corruption, what is EFCC and ICPC and Code of Conduct will be doing? There's a corruption going on. But look, let me tell you, before I land on this, the politically exposed person are not being tried in this country, whose their corruption is affecting millions of Nigerians. Once you come to the ruling party, your case will simply be suspended. In fact, in some instances, they even got appointment. This is ridiculous. Political corruption is a serious threat to democracy and development and the survival of Nigerians. Until you tackle those things, there's no way you can be doing this window dressing. We are talking about electoral reform, which will transform and ensure electoral transparency and integrity. People are not interested in pushing that.
Okay. All right, Mr. Rafsanjani, we do thank you very much indeed for your perspective, taking us through some of the background concerning the TI's report on Nigeria. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.
All right, we've got one more lap to go. Now we'll talk about that Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which, well, House of Reps have now agreed with the Senate on the matter. So we're looking to see what next. We'll go to Abuja for that. Magba?
Yeah.